I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the 7th edition of the Global Art and Design Education Expo. We're kicking off our second session of the day, and joining me today is Cameron Wilson. Cameron is the Associate Dean for International at the University of Dundee, more specifically with the Duncan of Jordanson College of Art and Design. The session that we have today is really interesting. It's talking about the journey you take as a student, from the time you're actually being a student to practicing professionally in the industry in the context of creative industries in the UK. I'll tell you a little bit about Cameron. He's actually driving the internationalization strategy at this college School of Art and Design, and he is really making great strides in that area. He's visiting places across the globe, focusing on Asia, the US, and other places as well. He's worked in the industry as an architect. He's taught architecture across all five years, at the Master of Architecture course. And at one point, he was also acting as the head of architecture and planning at the university. So I'm really looking forward to this session, and let's make it interactive. If you have any questions, please bring them up at the end. But over to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to come along today, this afternoon, to hear a short presentation. I'll try and not go on too long. I know it might seem like there's lots of slides on here, but I'm not going to talk about every single slide in detail. And as was just said, I'm happy to answer any questions. And in fact, I'll be asking you questions along the way. So it's good to be here. As was mentioned just now, I'm in a fortunate position of being able to visit different parts of the world, meet young people who are looking to come and study internationally and come and study with us at Dundee. Whilst I'll be talking about my university, because that's the one I know best, most of the topics I'm discussing are actually quite general and appropriate to almost any university or different parts of the world. This is since we're able to travel internationally again, which is a joy to see. This is actually my third visit to India this year, so it's great to be back once again. The weather is still a little bit warmer here than it is in the UK, funnily enough, but it's really nice to be back here. Very short visit again, but thank you for your time this afternoon. So as I say, I'll go through the slides. There we go. And find the right button. There we go. Should do that. Try that one. Excellent. Right. So that's me. As was mentioned, University of Dundee is my university. I'll give you a little bit of context, because I think really that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about context, and I'm really wanting you guys to think about your own specific context of your situation and where you might be going in the future. Some of you may be really familiar with the city that is Dundee in Scotland, or perhaps not. Most people know where London is, which is down in the southeast of the UK. We're that red dot up in the northeast of the country. It might seem like it's really far north, but usually in terms of temperature, there's only about 1 or 2 degrees difference between Dundee and London most of the time. There we go, that's working. Dundee, although it's a small city, even within the UK, it is a relatively small city, but it's quite important in terms of design and art and architecture globally. Dundee is the UK's only city of design as defined by UNESCO. It was awarded a number of years ago the UNESCO City of Design status. Also, the Victoria and Albert Museum, the V&A Museum that's located in London, a few years ago were looking for a new city to create its own Museum of Design. And it looked around the country, different cities, and it selected Dundee as the best place for that. So the image that's on the screen just now is the Museum of Design, designed by a Japanese architect called Kengo Kuma. So context is important in many aspects. Creative City, of course, we have many creative organisations that we have strong links with. Globally, that city, UNESCO City of Design, means that we're a part of a family of cities around the globe. Creative industry was the other thing that was mentioned just now, and it's that thing of, well, what's included in as a creative industry? So this is a question for you guys. What do you think would be included as a creative industry? What sort of subject areas, what topic areas? You can shout out a suggestion if you wish. Creative industry, what would that include? Advertising, yeah, advertising's in there. What else? Other creative things? Mentioned what my background was earlier on. This is where I find out if you were listening. So architecture, yeah, there's another part of the creative industry. Product design, industrial design, TV. Yes. Anything else? From back of the you don't have mics, so you have to shout really loud. You see. Animation, did someone say? Graphics, yeah, excellent. Okay, so now then the next question is, why is it important to define creative industries? Why is that important? It's a little bit of a rhetorical question, really. So there was a study a few years ago, I think 2019 or 2019 perhaps, that was done in the UK, and they were analysing, studying the creative industries in the UK. So this is UK creative industry context. So as was mentioned, there were a few things there: advertising, film, TV, photography, design, graphic design, product design, industrial design, IT, software, computer, games, music, performing, visual arts, publishing, museums, galleries, crafts, architecture. And then why is that important? Well, in the UK, when you look at all of the creative industries as a total, you find that they're actually, in 2019, I think it was, the value of those creative industries to the country was £116 billion. So UK is not a huge country, as you know. £116 billion is quite large. And we can see construction industry, finance and insurance, which are massive industries in the UK. Creative industries are just behind that. And in fact, in the UK economy, aerospace, automotive, life sciences is a big industry. Oil and gas sectors are big industries. All of these combined don't match up to the creative industries total. So that thing, I suppose, about context. Sometimes people look at maybe art, design, creative things, and think, it's really small scale. It doesn't really have that much impact. I think if the similar studies were done in other parts of the world, you'd also perhaps be surprised by how vital and how important it is to an economy. So, context, that's kind of the reason for mentioning that. Coming back to sort of my particular context, University of Design, University of Dundee, we've got architecture programs and so on within it. Very much the case that we are industry-facing, research-informed, specialist, interdisciplinary, inclusive, intercultural, but also social, cultural, economic impact, solving real-world problems is really important to us. To come to university and study, whether at undergraduate or at postgraduate level or at PhD level, one is dealing with a theoretical aspect of a subject area to a certain extent, but it's the application of these theories within the real world that has impact. And that's where we are interested in. Yes, we will be talking in perhaps an abstract or theoretical capacity at points through a degree program or postgraduate degree program, but we are also very much engaged with the realities of the now. So things to do with what we call the 3 E's: employability, enterprise, entrepreneurship is vitally important to all of our programs. I'll talk a little bit about that as we skip through. Okay, yeah, I put this slide up just, you're probably already aware, reputation ranking systems that exist that try and calculate where a university might sit on a league table. They're parts of the information that you might find useful. I must admit, from university's point of view, the global rankings, the top line rankings of a total university that might have tens of thousands of students and many hundreds of programs within it. For you guys, you're going to go on to one program, you're going to study for a single degree. It's really worthwhile doing a little bit of digging to find out where that program sits within rankings. Dundee, University of Dundee, College of Art and Design, it's called Duncan of Jordanstone College of Art and Design, it's a historical name to it. Really well known in the UK, but not so well known outside of the UK. So as a result, in the UK, we're in the top 10 in lots of areas with a number of the reputable sort of ranking organisations. So not talking really about Dundee there, I'm just saying that it's worthwhile digging below the top line figure when you're looking at rankings. It's worthwhile doing a little bit of investigation. This is really just a summary of some of the programs that we have. Again, it's about context. So that thing about engagement with the creative industries, we do have architecture and urban planning programs. We have our entry at year one into our general course where students can try out a number of different aspects of design or art and then select which path they want to go on. So again, that thing of immediately you're thinking about the context you're within and the interest that you're wanting to follow. Some will go on down the fine art route and contemporary art practice, maybe in communication design into animation, illustration, graphic design and making, jewellery and metal design. So those, in our environment, it's from year 2 onwards that generally people are going into these specialisms, digital interaction design, interiors, product design. So once someone comes out of their undergraduate study, again we're seeing an increased interest at master's level study. So may have done an undergraduate in some part of the world at their home institution perhaps, and then interested in doing a 1-year master's. In the UK, and certainly with our university, generally it's a 1-year, 3-semester master's that we offer. I'm not going to talk in detail about this, but this is really just to illustrate that thing about engagement with industry being embedded within, or employability being embedded within the course. One has, throughout the program, throughout the different modules, there are options on design enterprise, communication futures that are very much about looking at how one engages with industry. And by the time you get to the end of the degree, there are sort of design enterprise modules again that are kind of engaging between the crossover from academic study into the real world. Master's programs, it's a range of things that we've got. I'll talk briefly about. So for instance, we have a product design master's. We have a product design undergraduate as well. Some students who have done perhaps product design or industrial design think, well, I'll go and do a master's in that now. Great, we see quite a few students doing that very thing. But it doesn't have to be. Our masters, most of our master's programs are flexible enough that people might come from a different background. So we will see students coming maybe from product design or perhaps from engineering or graphic design or architecture, and then thinking, actually, I'm interested in focusing on product for a period of time. So the thing about your own specific context, I would suggest that you really think carefully about if you are going into the sort of postgraduate level, is thinking what makes you unique, what makes you have an offering that maybe other people don't. So It might be about having a really strong knowledge of product design. You might actually be thinking, well, I'm going to go and do research in product design, or going to become a specialist in an aspect of product design. That's why I want to have undergraduate and postgraduate. You might come from a different undergraduate background. It might be engineering, it might be some other design discipline, and think, well, actually, I want to have something else. I want to have another tool in my toolbox to offer to an organization. So that's why I'm going to do product design. So you kind of want to think of yourself as a, holistically, as what's the full package that you're going to have to offer to industry in the future. I won't talk about that. That's other things to do with applications. Animation. I'll come back to this in a little while. Animation, visual effects. We do teach students to a certain extent how to work with the current software that's industry standard, that will allow them to go on to work in the animation industry. But we're not really teaching people to be technicians on a piece of software. We're looking to encourage people in terms of how they're going to think. And one of the things that our animation academics talk about is it's really important to have an ability to tell a story, because often that's what animation's about, is how you're communicating an idea. And similarly with our comics and graphic novels, it's not just about how one draws something, it's how one puts together that narrative. These postgraduate programs in that aspect might not necessarily be going off to work in TV and film. It might be working in a different type of industry. The thing about moving from undergraduate to postgraduate, thinking about how do you create your own unique package to offer to the world. We have programs such as Design for Business. So again, people may come from a design background and want to think, well, I'm interested in that crossover between design, and I'm also interested in certain aspects of business. I don't want to be an accountant, but I'm interested in the connection between different worlds. So we do see students coming from arts, architecture, design backgrounds, but we also see them coming from humanities, social sciences, management, business, because this program is about design thinking. So using the techniques of a designer in terms of how to understand and tackle a problem that could be in any number of industries, any number of environments. Similarly with another program called Design for Healthcare, where people are interested in the healthcare industry in its widest sense. So again, it's about design thinking as to how to tackle a challenge that might exist. So you might have, for instance, a really huge hospital, many thousands of people that work there, many thousands of people that are in for as patients, and then all the other people that come along that are visitors or there to do business. It becomes really hard to navigate some of these really large organizations. So one then has to understand, how do you design for an organization to be readily understood by someone that's either visiting for a short period of time, someone that's going through a very tough time or trauma at that stage, or someone that's actually working. So how does one tackle that? It's a big, massive programmatic problem. Equally, it might be about how does one engage with doorways or openings in terms of what you touch, what you feel, from the point of view of all the different people that are using that hospital, from those that are the professionals that are there all day, every day, to those that are perhaps slightly infirm or unsure or partially sighted. How does one engage with designing for that? So Design for Healthcare, that allows people to figure out a challenge and then examine it over a period of time. With all of our master's programs, whilst there are taught aspects to it, we have modules, we're also at master's level, and again, this will be pertinent to many universities. At master's level, there's a certain degree of ownership given to the student in what they are going to investigate. So it's not a case of kind of sitting back thinking, I'll just let the teacher teach me. We're expecting people to be able to carry the ball to a certain extent and move with it. Curatorial practice, again, is an interesting thing. We're seeing not just museums and art galleries, but we're also seeing organisations interested in how to convey perhaps a large collection that a healthcare organisation has, or a large oil company might have, and how to then convey complicated information to an audience, whether that's a specialist audience or to a public audience. So curatorial practice is a really interesting thing that's coming through, brand new programme. Transitions from one world to the next. So art and humanities programme does just that. It's engaging across the fine arts to sort of literature, English and so on. Flip side of that, art, science and visual thinking, again, is looking at the connection between the art world and the science world and how one communicates there. Drawing, also looking at exploring that particular aspect from a wide variety of backgrounds. Fine art these days is not split up into painting and sculpture because there's so much crossover that's done. And we happen to have urban design, so that thing of moving from a graphic designer or product designer into thinking of the urban scale, or from interior designer to urban spatial planner, is possible to do. As I mentioned, we do have an architecture programme that people can do if they've done an undergraduate in architecture. So again, postgraduate, we have kind of big, fat, chunky modules that are total of 60 credits in one semester, total of 60 credits in the second semester, split into 40 and 20, and then that final piece of work, that culmination of the master's, 60 credits, could be independent projects that someone is doing where they are taking an academic or artistic project forward in a theoretical manner, or to explore an aspect of theory, or they might select, actually, I want to do a placement with an organisation and tackle an issue perhaps that organisation's tussling with. So again, even within things that have modules that have structure to it, there's flexibility. And again, it's all about thinking of what you think would be important to offer to a potential employer in the future. That was actually from a project we did with our large hospital we've got in the city. I'm sure every university will say a very similar thing, certainly for ourselves. Graduate opportunities, coming out, fresh out of university into industry is a step. It is a first step, but hopefully it's a first step on a long and prosperous journey. I tend to usually think about students who are leaving us as being at the start of a potential career or a career path that will be beneficial to them in many different ways. It's hard to think about, what that first step might be or what the reward might be just in the first sort of 6 months or year. I tend to always think about it in the longer term. So we've got lots of alumni, some of whom have graduated in very recent years, who keep in touch with us to say all the interesting and exciting things that they're doing with their life. Some of it's anticipated, some of it's actually not anticipated, but really still interesting and exciting. But we also keep in touch with alumni who studied and graduated from us decades ago, who are now owners of companies, CEOs of multinational organisations, who have risen through the ranks of larger organisations or worked their way from a one-person organisation up into a multinational or national company. And they're always really happy to convey their experience to others, and always look back fondly on their experience as a student. And then, so next step. So I've talked about moving through undergraduate study into postgraduate study. For some people who are interested then in taking their postgraduate study even further and going into PhD, again, certainly ourselves as an institution, as a College of Art and Design, as a School of Art and Design, we also have that as an opportunity for people. So that thing of going on into the world of the world of work, into industry. I was using product design as an example of saying, well, you can go from undergraduate product design, postgraduate product design, move into perhaps a company that's looking to employ you as a product designer. So we are providing people on those pathways particular skills as a product designer. But also with all of our programs, we are offering our graduates transferable skills. So what would be included as a transferable skill? How might you describe a transferable skill? An example of a transferable skill? Any thoughts? What would a transferable skill be? And why is a transferable skill important? I think, especially when I speak to our students who are going through whichever program it might be, whether it's an undergraduate, postgraduate, certainly undergraduate, you talk about transferable skills, they think, oh, I don't really have any. I don't have anything that's really of value anyway. But then you have a chat with them and you say, well, projects we've been giving you, you're working in small teams occasionally for a week or two. You're having to work with your colleagues in the studio to achieve a particular outcome from a challenge that's been set. You're having to gather together. It might be somebody that has to kind of take the lead from time to time. You're having to plan. Every brief you get, you have to figure out how long it's going to take you to do a task. You've got to manage a whole series of challenges along the way. You certainly have to research, you certainly have to problem solve. Designers, artists, architects, they all have excellent critical and evaluative thinking. Their critical thinking might be a little bit different to someone maybe coming from a science background, but it's equally valuable, and it might even be the thing that makes a difference in a company to have someone with a design thinking method. IT skills. These days our art and design students have excellent IT skills, really broad range. Communications off the chart. They're really great at verbal communication, they're really fantastic at graphic communication, they're really good at written communication. And of course, creativity. They all have boundless, limitless amounts of creativity within them. And then when you actually speak to that undergraduate student or postgraduate student, say, well, actually, you've got all these things. Then they realise, oh yeah, actually, yeah, my IT skills are pretty good. Nobody else knows how to use this bit of software when I speak to my friends that are doing business. Communication, actually, yeah, that's true. I can jump around lots of different means of communication that some of my friends that are doing other courses at university can't really do. And then they start to realise, oh, actually, I've got lots and lots of transferable skills that are important to pretty much any industry. And the reason that this is particularly important right now, and probably even more important than ever before, is because we're now seeing careers, jobs that we hadn't anticipated would exist 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So how can one teach a student for a career that we don't know is there yet? So that's why these things are important, certainly important to our graduates. And I suppose the other thing is, if you are thinking about international education, if you are thinking about studying in another part of the world, again, that's a really useful offering to give to an employer. Or if you're thinking of being entrepreneurial, it also gives you a bunch of other perspectives and a bunch of other networks that you didn't have previously. I think I'll probably stop at that point now. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry, there is one vital thing that I want to just try and do if it will work, because it's not me talking about students. And get this to work.
I'm originally from Kolkata, so after my graduation in Dundee, I moved to Mumbai here in India. I have worked a year as a CG modeler in Prana Studios, creating and standardizing the library for Lego. And then currently I'm working as a production coordinator in DNEG India. I have worked on 2 major films that have made quite the headlines. One would be Marvel's Black Panther, And the other one is Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald. It's a J.K. Rowling film, and I'm a huge J.K. Rowling fan, so it was quite a pleasure to work in that film. My Dundee education has given me quite the confidence to turn my dreams into reality. I never thought I'd be working in big films, and I was quite a shy person, but the confidence, the education, and my degree has given me has taken me quite far.
So, thank you for your patience. I did go a little bit longer in that presentation there, but thank you.